Hello there, I'm St-Pierre, and you're listening to Go Podcast. Wanted to talk today about dependencies and what kind of dependencies maintenance you are doing with your project. Is it part of a weekly routine? Is it monthly? Is it quarterly? Is it yearly? Are you even doing it? I was guilty of not doing it myself for a couple of projects. I mean, it all depends. But dependencies is something that needs to get some attention sometimes. And frequency could also means that you will remove some complexity when the times comes when some of your dependencies will change from one major version to the other. So let's talk about that. Taking dependencies in your project is a necessary evil for sure. I mean, most often than not, it's pretty rare that a project will not have any kind of dependencies, depending on what you're building. But this is something that you are entrusting the package maintainer or the team behind a package. You are giving them a lot of trust that if you are planning to maintain your own projects for a long time, you also want to make sure to receive all the security update and everything that would not prevent your project to be successful. So you are putting a lot of trust. And in the Go community, I would say that in the 10 years that I've been doing that, I haven't seen or I haven't been bitten by a dependencies so far. And there's other community that it's not like that, and where minor version update could break your project, and because the package maintainer, well, not really package, but let's talk about JavaScript, for example. So that's it's a notorious it's notoriously known to have some breaking change sometime inside patch version or minor version, and lots of issues with the all the relationship between dependencies and whatnot. So what it means to do some maintenance on your dependency. Well, if you agree to take some dependencies, you also agree to make sure that your project keep an eye or you keep an eye on those dependencies and update them when it's the proper time to do that. So there's a couple of school of thought for that. What I like to do usually is, well, first of all, there's the go list command. If you do go list -m-u, you can pass a package name in there, or you can pass the all keyword, for instance, and this will list all your dependencies that you have for your current project with their current version, and if there is any update available, it will be listed as well. So you would see the latest version, if you will. So that's a good way to start. So I would start there. Make sure that you are keeping your dependencies up to date, at least for patches and update version. So that's pretty simple and, usually decently safe to update your dependencies to their latest minor version. To do that, you just need basically to do a go get -u, and you can use the /./ to upgrade all your packages from one simple command to their latest minor version. I still suggest to do that, and run all your tests and things like that, because you never know. It's not something I've seen in the Go community, that minor version or patch version would introduce breaking changes, but I mean, this can happen, and so that's the first step to make sure that your dependencies are up to date. So what if one of your dependency or multiple dependencies changed from one major version to the other? So that is where the fun starts, if I can say that. Usually when a package maintainer release the V1, so from when you create a package and you don't yet assign a version to it, you do have a temporary 0 version, for example, and from your 0 to your V1, you don't have anything to do as a consumer of a package. You don't need to change the version. As soon as the package would change from V1 to V2, for example, let's imagine that you have a package on your project called ABC, and you are currently running or using the V1.2.3. So V1 is your major number, of course. 2 would be the minor version, and 3 would be the patch version. So when the package maintainer updates their package, if they introduce any kind of breaking change, either in the API or anything that is publicly exposed, if there is any change in there, in terms of removing a function or renaming a function or anything that is not doing what it was doing previously in terms of the public access of that, they are technically required to bump the major version. That implies that all the consumer of this package will need to opt in to say, okay, you know what? I understand. I have read the what changed and what could break and things like that. So from there, this famous ABC package, to update it, you would need to go get this specific new version. So you will need to go get the package name ABC at v2.0.0. Let's say this is the current version. This is the latest version of. So by upgrading that and specifying that version, you are telling the tool, all right, I'm ready to upgrade to the next major version. And now you will need to change all the import path for that package and add the /v2 prefix on all the imports in your project. Also, again, telling the tool or the compiler to say, just use that v2 version. And now if there is any breaking change with what you were using, then you will need to fix that, obviously. And from there, you are good to go on this v2 version. So doing a check or, a proper maintenance or hygiene of your dependencies frequently is extremely helpful and will help your project, keep in a good shape. Obviously, sometimes it's pretty difficult to update from one major version to the other. You might not even want to do that. So, there is still a valid reason not to upgrade to a major version, because at the end of the day, you still need to assign or account for developer times to to fix any issue that might be introduced with this new major version. Might not be the right time. So at some point there is some decision that needs to be made. Things like, if you are waiting way too much, and now let's say 2 years, 3 years after that, there's another major version, and now you are 2 major versions behind. Things starts to get a little bit complicated at that moment, and might be, there might be time where maybe it would be worth to maintain your own fork of this version if you are to stay on that. I mean, this is where the complexity will start, depending on where you are and where you want to go. As someone that maintain projects, 20 years project, dependencies can really hurt at some point. I have seen situation where the dependencies maintainer are not even maintaining the project. The project is not active anymore, but not even that. But there has been some times where it was extremely difficult to just continue using it because it was not available anymore, and things like that. So in Go, this is a little bit less scary because most of the dependencies are on GitHub. So you can always fork them and make sure that your company has their own version. If, for example, the maintainer would archive the project or do something worse than deleting the project, for example, and things like that. So we do have some kind of great option in Go. So what I was referring to is more like I remember when I start developing, it was in VB6, commercially, professionally, if you will, and the dependencies were like DLL file that you were getting from the vendor, because those dependencies at that time you were basically buying licenses and you were receiving binary DLL file that you could link in your project. So when the companies were shutting down, there was just no way to get those DLL anymore. So yes, it's a new world now. Well, and I don't believe there is a lots of bad thing like that can happen in Go. I really like how the dependencies works, all the module. So it's pretty safe, but still you need to keep an eye on your dependencies, especially if you want your project to to survive for 10s and 20 years, for example, and things like that. All right. So on that was a quick episode. So speak next week.